I'm Thomas Mears. I watched football and the white number 11. First off, I noticed that his first strength as a skill was his short passing with his dominant foot. I noticed this at 2 hours and 35 seconds. This shows that he showed that his short passing with his dominant foot was accurate and fluent and effortless, such as the characteristics of skill, showing that he has practiced this many times and possibly is in the autonomous stage of learning with his passing with his dominant left foot. I also noticed that his ball control of his feet, mainly his dominant foot, was very good, and he did this with high levels of success, such as 1 hour, 59 minutes and 38 seconds. This shows that when he has been practicing his ball control with his feet, that it has been stored in his long-term memory, such as in Craig and Lockhart's levels of processing model. He has given it meaning. I also noticed that his third skill strength was his jockeying, showing this at 2 hours, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. He was able to jockey his man to prevent the opposition's right back from playing the ball down the line and cause the player to go backwards back to his own goalkeeper. These three skills, however, are basic skills named on the OCR exam specification, so I would expect my player, the white number 11, to be able to perform these skills with high levels of success and very often. I noticed tactically that his first strength was his positioning, such as at 1 hour 57 minutes and 18 seconds and at 2 hours and 30 seconds. He was side on right on the touchline as a left midfielder should be, to allow the ball to be played onto his back foot so he could then either make a pass, make a cross or begin to dribble. He had awareness of team tactics very well at 1 hour 58 minutes and 31 seconds. This showed that when his team had the opportunity to go on a counter-attack, he was able to get onto the left wing and stay to his position to enable his team to have a chance to either get a cross in or get a shot on goal and possibly score. I also noticed that tactically, where to run off of the ball was a positive. At 2 hours and 29 seconds, he ran down the line as his left back got the ball to allow space either for the left back to run into and draw his man away, or to allow the ball to be played to him if the opposition's right back did not track his run. These three tactics allow his team to get space to run into, space to pass into, possibly giving themselves a chance to score a goal or get an opportunity to score a goal. I noticed that fitness-wise, his body composition, he had a fairly between mesomorph and ectomorph somatotype, this showing that he had a fairly triangular shaped body and had around the correct muscle to fat ratio for a football player to prevent him having excess weight, which would then decrease his performance. I noticed that his agility, which is the ability to change direction quickly in control, was also very good, and he showed that off of the ball he was able to change direction fast to draw his man out to come short to the ball, to then spin and run in behind, possibly for a ball through. This could then lead to him getting a chance one-on-one with the goalkeeper or one-on-one with his opposite defender to possibly get a cross in and lead to his team maybe scoring a goal. I also noticed that his third fitness strength was his speed. He demonstrated this many times that, especially on the counter-attack, at 1 hour 58 minutes and 30 seconds, he was able to go from his defensive positioning from the opposition's attack into an attacking position in a matter of seconds, with his speed being very high, this allowing him to get away from his defender and beat his defender if he dribbled, due to his fast pace and possibly getting a chance to play the ball into the box unopposed, as the opposition's right back may not have been able to catch up with him. These three fitness strengths as a whole show that as a football performer, these three fitness components are vital to allow his team to get opportunities to score and to get opportunities to create chances. However, I noticed his skill weaknesses. For example, his marking off the ball at 1 hour 56 minutes 44 and 2 hours 1 minute and 20 seconds. There was he saw that he had a man to mark, however was not tight enough to this man, so that the opposition's right back or right winger were able to collect the ball from their midfield and then get a chance to go down the line and cross the ball in, or go back inside and create a chance for their teammates. This could show that there has been very little verbal or visual guidance from a coach, such as a role model, for example. If this had have happened, with it being a role model, it would allow the Bandora's arm model of attention, retention, motor reproduction and motivation to occur, as a role model would be easier to get this point across to the performer. His second strength weakness was his range of passing with his weak foot. At 2 minutes 4 seconds and 32, 2 hours 4 minutes and 32 seconds, there was a poor long pass with his weaker foot. This shows that, and it was also his range of passing with his weaker foot, with his weaker right foot, was very rarely attempted. This showing that possibly his anxiety levels increase when he is playing in front of a crowd, which there were, and the crowd is available to get there due to transport, due to the development in trains and aeroplanes during the 20th century and 21st century. This also shows that there is very little bilateral transfer occurring, as his stronger left foot has not had a positive effect on his weaker right foot, and that his sports confidence levels are very low when passing with his weaker right foot. I noticed that his third skill weakness was his heading, as at 2 hours 4 minutes and 21 seconds, he jumped up for a header and completely missed the ball. This showing that there may have been very little fixed practice taken place by a performer, by a coach. I think this because heading is a skill that can be either externally paced or self-paced, as well as being an open skill or a closed skill depending on the environment. Fixed practice could be good for this, to allow him to practice heading constantly and effectively to his teammates. I noticed that tactically, his weaknesses, such as his first weakness, which was on set pieces, at 1 hour 58 minutes and 18 seconds, he was completely stationary during a free kick and was not part of the wall. This showing that there has been very little feedback given to him, such as tangible praise when he makes the right movement to track a runner on a defensive free kick. This then causing his team to his opposition to get away from him and possibly have a chance to have a free header on goal and then possibly score a goal, making his own team concede. Intangible praise such as congratulating him when tracking his man on a free kick has not been present in his training. I also noticed that his second tactical weakness was when to dribble. This being shown at 2 hours 5 minutes and 44 seconds. He had an opportunity to 54 seconds. Sorry, he had an opportunity to dribble down the line and possibly get a cross into his teammates. However, he did not do this and opted for an easy short pass with his weaker foot. This showing that once again his sports confidence may be low and he may be experience the inverted U theory, where as arousal increases due to crowd, there is an increase in performance to an optimum, and then as the arousal continues to increase, his performance slowly drops off. This could, to improve this, we could use cognitive or somatic relaxation techniques such as progressive muscle relaxation or negative thought stopping, where when these negative thoughts occur, the performer then just straight away thinks stop to prevent the anxiety causing his performance to drop. I also noticed his third tactical weakness was when to cross. I noticed this at 1 hours 59 minutes and 42 seconds, as well as 2 hours 5 minutes and 54 seconds. On both of these occasions, he had at 2 hours 5 minutes and 54 seconds, he had the opportunity to cross the ball, but instead, as stated in the when to dribble, he had the opportunity to cross the ball or to dribble, and he opted for an easier short pass with his weaker foot. With his strong foot, sorry. And at 1 hours 59 minutes and 42 seconds, he had the opportunity to dribble or take a short pass, as there were no options in the box for him to cross the ball to. And so when he did cross the ball, it was a poor ball and it went straight to the goalkeeper. These tactical weaknesses allow his opposition to get an easy chance on goal or have a chance to counter-attack, as he has given the ball away cheaply and he then may not be able to get back. I noticed that his fitness weaknesses, for example the first one being VO2 max, after 5 to 10 minutes of watching the performer, due to this being in between the 80th and 90th minute that I watched, he showed various times being tired and unable to track back when his team gave away the ball in the final third, such as at 2 hours 4 minutes and 35 seconds. VO2 max being the amount of oxygen taken that can be taken in and used by the working muscles per minute. This shows that he has lower levels of VO2 max than required to keep his performance at a high standard throughout the entire game. This showing that possibly his cardiovascular and respiratory system need work on and need improving, as his venous return, as his stroke volume may not be at a required level with his heart rate being too high, this then increasing fatigue levels. I noticed that his second fitness weakness was flexibility. His flexibility could have been better at the ball and socket join as the hip. When playing a long ball, he was unable to get the correct power into this due to incorrect movement of the ball and socket joint at the hip. This could be due to poor levels of dynamic flexibility, which is flexibility on the move. This decreased his performance levels as he was unable to play a successful ball over the top to his striker. I noticed that his third fitness weakness was his strength, as at 2 hours, 4 minutes and 21 seconds, when he jumped for the header, his opposition was able to easily rise above him, and he had very low strength levels in his gastrocnemius to allow him to propel himself due to dorsal and plantar flexion at the ankle. These three fitness weaknesses prevented his team from winning aerial duels or getting quality balls over the top to allow them to gain chances to score, and because of this there were very little chances of them scoring. I have chosen to improve his VO2 max and his range of passing with his weaker foot, as these were a fitness weakness and a skill weakness. The weak foot passing being, the range of passing with his weaker foot being an advanced skill in the OTR specification, so it is possible that a player at this level may not be able to perform this skill with high levels of success, such as the characteristics of skill of being effortless and fluent. I will create a training plan for a 2 to 3 month period. I have chosen 2 to 3 months as this is enough time to allow adaptations to occur in the body, such as an increase in VO2 max or an increase in his skill level of his range of passing with his weaker foot. This is a mesocycle, as it is between 4 to 16 weeks, with 2 to 3 months being part of that. And the mesocycle is to work on specific components of fitness, in this case VO2 max and range of passing with his weaker foot. These mesocycles will be split into 3 microcycles, which are 2 to 4 training weeks, where he will have, and then these microcycles will be split up into individual training sessions. In the first 1 to 4 weeks, we will start off lightly, as he has a base, with a fitness test. We will start with a fitness test, and I will take him to the Institute of Sport for Football in England, which is St George's Park in Burton. This Institute of Sport will allow me to perform direct gas analysis on my performer, and allow this direct gas analysis being very accurate and can give readings at both sub-maximal and maximal effort. This showing that I will be able to track his progress from when he begins his training plan into the middle of his training plan and to the end of his training plan, so I can measure any adaptations that have occurred in his VO2 max and see if this will help to improve his performance. The development of technology in the 21st century makes this direct gas analysis possible. However, direct gas analysis, the technology is very expensive and is only found in certain institutes of sport, such as St George's Park, as previously mentioned. And a cheaper alternative to this would be either the 12-minute Cooper run test or the multi-stage fitness test, which can be done with a variety of performers of different ages and different skill levels. However, these are not sport specific and are less accurate than the direct gas analysis test, which is a mask placed around the player's mouth so they can breathe normally and breathe as they would if they are doing the submaximal or maximal exercise. This then allows the technology which has been developed in the 21st century, which is a great asset to sport, to give a very accurate reading of his VO2 max and his metabolic rate, basometabolic rate. So in the first 1 to 4 weeks, we will give him 2 30-minute jog sessions around St George's Park's brilliant facilities of 4G AstroTurf. In these 30 minutes, we would be working at 60 to 80% of his maximum heart rate. So if the performer is 20, his maximum heart rate will be 220 minus his age, which would make it 200 beats per minute. So we would then work at 60 to 80% of this heart rate to allow which is the aerobic training zone, to allow adaptations to both his respiratory system and his cardiovascular system to adapt his VO2 max. I will also have 2 sessions with his weaker foot to begin with in the first 1 to 2 weeks. And to start off with, I will go through his 2 sessions with his weaker foot will be simply fixed practice, passing a ball against a wall with his weaker foot so it then ricochets back to him. He can then control the ball with his feet, which we have already seen which I've already stated is one of his skill strengths. He can then continue to do this for the first 1 week and his first 2 sessions with his weaker foot to get a basic confidence and basic level of performance with his weaker foot when passing with his weaker right foot. I will then, for his VO2 max, I will increase the frequency of his sessions to 3 30 minutes per week in the 3rd to 4th week. This will allow still keeping this in the 60 to 80% of his maximum heart rate, and I will use a Fitbit, which is another form of technology that has been produced to keep on his wrist, which measures his heart rate, or I will use a heart rate and respiratory volume measurer, which is a vest that goes around the chest of the player, which Premier League clubs will use and such as St George's Park will use to help with the England players that train there. For his weak foot passing, I will then set up, it's still in the first 1 to 4 weeks, but in the 3rd and 4th week, I will set up a 10 metre by 10 metre grid of cones where they will be 4 players passing to each other and moving off the ball, playing both long and short passes, but beginning with short passes to give an even better understanding and allow kinesthesis, which is getting a feeling for the movement. This will then reduce the levels of anxiety that the performer is experiencing when passing with his weaker right foot. I will then add a passive defender into this 10 by 10 metre grid. So the passive defender cannot tackle but can only jockey the performers as they play passes with their weaker foot. This will then make the skill slightly more open and slightly more externally paced. I think that this will help to improve the performer as he will have to make more decisions on where to pass as there isn't a defender still in the way, so they may be able to intercept. Moving on to the second mesocycle, the 5 to 8 weeks, the second microcycle, the 5 to 8 weeks, I will keep the frequency of the VO2 max training sessions to 3 sessions a week. However, I will increase the time that the performer is doing these runs for, still keeping it between 60 to 80% of his maximum heart rate for his aerobic training zone to allow adaptations to occur to both his respiratory and cardiovascular systems. I will increase it to 3 45-minute sessions, to still using the technology previously mentioned of the vest that measures both heart rate and respiratory volume, so I can see that the performer is working at between 60 to 80% of his maximum heart rate. So if he's working below 60 to 80%, for example 50% of his maximum heart rate, I can add a punishment where I will do suicide runs. So he will run to the 6-yard box and back to the from the goal line to the 6-yard box and back to the 18-yard and back to the halfway line and back. This punishment will break negative SR bonds due to cognitive theory of learning, which shows that the SR bonds are stimulus response bonds. It will break negative ones. I will also use positive feedback, such as intangible praise of applauding when he is working between his 60 to 80% of his maximum heart rate. This will strengthen positive SR bonds. I will also increase, then in between the 7th and 8th week, I will allow him to train on different terrains such as the Fruit 4G and grass pitches, so he's getting different terrains and using fartlek training as well as continuous training, which I have been using previously. The fartlek training using different terrains and different levels, so he could go from 60% of his maximum heart rate jogging to 80% of his maximum heart rate with a short sprint or using the anaerobic energy systems such as the lactic acid energy system, which can go from over 10 seconds to around 4 minutes. This will, although increase fatigue, it will mirror how a football game is played, as it is not continuous jogging in aerobic training zones. And then for the range of passing with his weaker foot, I will then add an active defender who can then tackle the performers when they are passing with their weaker foot. This will make the skill much more open and much more externally paced, so that this active defender in between 4 players can then tackle or intercept the ball with much more aggression, such as they would do in a match. I will also increase the grid to a 20 by 20 metre. This will cause my player, the white 11, to have to use cognitive theory of learning much more to think about where to pass and when to pass, which is the correct pass at what time, so the defender does not intercept the ball. I will then, in the 7th to 8th week, I will add an extra defender but also an extra attacker. So it is a 5 versus 3 in the 20 metre by 20 metre grid. So this makes it a much more confined space, making it much more open and a lot more externally paced. This then hopefully developing his characteristics of skill, such as his passes being accurate and fluent. In the final microcycle between the 9th to 12th week of his training plan, at the start of his 5 to 8 week plan, I would have done another direct gas analysis test to see any improvements that had occurred in his first 1 to 4 weeks of his training plan, this again being very accurate and the technology being very great. Then at the start of his 9th to 12th, in his 9th week, I will do another direct gas, in his 9th to 12th week, I will change his position from being a left winger to being a right winger in the training sessions. this this forcing the player to use his right foot more to cross the ball or to pass the ball, as the right back will play the ball to him on his right foot on the majority of occasions. I will make it originally a 7-a-side game so that it is more sport specific and gives the player much more decisions to make and makes the skill more open, so that the skill is also more externally paced and that the environment is changing around him at all times. So all defenders will be active and it will be a lot harder for the player to play the ball easily, as it will be opposed all the time. I will also add a crowd to train in front of, as this is a relaxation. This is a technique to reduce the anxiety levels witnessed by the performer in the 10-minute video I watched, as his anxiety levels in front of the crowd were affecting him and causing his performance to drop. This indicating that if he's training in front of a crowd, this will prevent it from being his performance to being inhibited, to his performance improving in front of the crowd and not changing. I will then increase it to a full 11-a-side games in his 10th, between his 11th to 12th week. This giving me an insight so I can see the improvements made with his weaker foot, so that he is passing much more with his weaker foot and that his sports confidence has increased much more. This will then allow the player many more opportunities, still playing him on the right hand side instead of the left, to force him to use his right foot more. This will allow him to gain higher levels of sports confidence and increase his performance. For his VO2 max, I will increase the time once again to three 1-hour runs initially, using fartlek training again, as well as continuous training with the Institute of Sports Technology, such as the vest, to measure his heart rate once again. And also when playing in the 11-a-side games, he will be using this technology so I can also measure his VO2 max levels when he is playing a game, to see that when he is slacking and hiding behind other performers. I will then increase this to 4 sessions of 1-hour runs a week to allow him to get his final push of aerobic adaptations, such as cardiac hypertrophy, where the heart becomes bigger and stronger so that stroke volume will increase, whereas heart rate decreasing, possibly going under 50 beats per minute at resting heart rate, showing that he will experience bradycardia. So that when the stroke volume increases but the heart rate has decreased, the cardiac output is the same, but his heart is having to work less hard. At the end of the 12 weeks, I will also do one more direct gas analysis test to measure his adaptations that have occurred in his full 12-week mesocycle training plan. This will give me an insight on the improvements made from before the training plan to at the end of the training plan, so that I can see how well he has improved and how this will affect his performance in games and possibly lead to him getting more opportunities down the line, or more opportunities one-on-one with the goalkeeper to improve the results that his team are having.